Chapter 6. The Battle of Light and Dark. Maub's troops had encircled the home reef. They were stretching their black tentacles towards the seasters. All the fish were weaving their way past the troops in an attempt to confuse them and cause them to scatter. The seasters were throwing balls of light to fight off the encroaching darkness. Lili, Oliver and Gaspard hurried to help the others. The king was holding a shell with a shiny white pearl inside it. He shone the light of the pearl upwards so that it formed an arching roof over the reef.
Light into the dark. May this shelter protect us. Guard us from here till infinity.
Ha! Your spells will not protect you for long. I only need to swallow a little more light and I will be stronger than you. Perhaps that fat turtle will be my next.
Maub laughed and pointed a tentacle at Gaspard. Gaspard froze on the spot and stared at the monster, motionless.
Yeah, look how delicious the seaweed is. Come and get it. I know you want to.
The monster waved the green bouquet in front of Gaspard's nose with a sinister look, certain that the turtle would grab the bait.
No, thank you.
No?
Well, you see, I'm actually not a turtle.
What?
I am a proud sea cucumber, and we sea cucumbers do not eat seaweed, we eat plankton.
After saying this, Gaspard sank to the sea floor amongst the other sea cucumbers and retreated into his shell. The sea cucumbers chuckled at their new companion. Maub was infuriated. The creature urged the dark troops on all the more, boiling with anger. Filled with rage and fury, Maub struck at the pearly light with the combined might of all their tentacles.
The shield is cracking!
Throw more light balls!
But bit by bit, the light shield began to shatter. The pearly light turned from white to the colour of the sand that was stirred up on the seabed. The shell began to close up. At that very moment, all the inhabitants of the sea raced to help their king. The moray snaked their way through the water plants as the black tentacles of Maub's soldiers circled around them. The eels sent out their dazzling electric shocks, and the turtles lined up side by side, forming an armour of shells in front of the reef. And the goldfish, well, as usual, they just panicked and swam around in a flurry, bumping into one another. The seasters threw as many light balls as they could, but it was to no avail. They looked on feeling helpless as their friends turned into lifeless grey figures once Maub's darkness reached them.
Retreat! We can't hold them back any longer. Everyone to the cave!
All the inhabitants of the kingdom hid in the only refuge they had left. A cave opened up under the reef. Its usual purpose was to provide shelter during terrible storms. That is where they now sought solace, summoning their last strength.
Why does Maub want our light when they don't even turn any brighter themselves?
They try to console themselves. You always long for light in the darkness. The darker your insides are, the more desperately you crave light. Maub can never be satisfied.
Never?
Nobody can fully heal by taking away the vital light of another. True power does not come from the outside. Maub would first need to find an inner light, and finding one's inner light requires admitting one's own weakness. It requires having the courage to feel sorrow and to cry. More space opens up for light when you let go of your sorrows. Maub refuses to release any sadness, and instead gathers more and more of it. And every time they capture the light of someone else, they turn gloomier and gloomier.
In that case, my light's already very strong. I've always been more afraid of the dark than anything else. In the middle of the sea, I managed to see my own light, even if there was no light around. Lily, I saw your light too.
And I saw yours.
Now that you've found your own light, what will you do with it?
I want to share it. It's far too dark here. I am here to share my light.
If you are brave, you can become a light bearer. The sea helps its kind. Only the brightest light can defeat pitch-black darkness.
At that moment, something started to happen on land. The colour of the sea turned darker and darker, and the land started to tremble. The sound was so loud that it made the windows of houses shake and rattle. People noticed that the oarfish had surfaced. They gathered on the beach to inspect the curious animals. They talked and remembered what had happened the last time that the oarfish had appeared.
Look, what's that? Oh my!
What's there?
Look, over there. No,
Do you see that?
in the water. Look, look.
Are those the oarfish?
Mummy, what's an oarfish?
Because it had been so long since the oarfish were last seen, the people had to turn to their elders to understand what it meant. After pondering the matter for a short time, they agreed what they needed to do. When the oarfish appear, it's best to run for cover. The seafloor would continue to shake and the water would rise over the land. The people began to pass on the message far and wide so that others would also act. They gathered their most necessary belongings and hurried inland for safety. Not a single person dared to defy the warning of the past. Maub's laughter echoed off the walls of the cave, and the seasters sensed that their dark army would soon smash the cave to pieces.
Hide all you can, but you cannot get away from me!
Boulders started flying all around, and tentacles peeked through the cavities, reaching for the seasters. At last, the roof of the cave gave in, and the seasters were now surrounded. Maub stretched to full height and turned towards Oliver.
Now I will take your light, and you shall disappear.
You won't take my light. I'll hand it over to you.
You will give me your light?
Maub was stupefied, and the seasters waited in silence, holding their breath.
Your darkness doesn't live in me. My insides are filled with bright light. Even if you took all my light away, it wouldn't help you at all. You're so full of sadness that light doesn't stick to you. I'm not afraid of you. You turn everything black because you use fear to control everything around you. But I know how we can find light even in the middle of the greatest sadness, and there's nothing that can take it away from me. Look at my true light. It's beautiful and bright, and I will share it with you.
Oliver closed his eyes and opened his heart. A bright light started to glow inside him.
Here, have my light too.
Lily grabbed Oliver by the arm, and their light grew stronger. One by one, the seasters joined hands and started to radiate. The light emitting from them was so bright, pure and strong that nothing of the sort had ever been seen in the kingdom of the sea. Maub was aghast and blinded by the sudden light.
My eyes hurt! I can't stand this! This is insufferable!
The monster could not take hold of the light, and it didn't extinguish from the creature's touch. Maub's troops retreated into the darkness, their eyes blinded by the light. The king knew that they would return. He was hoping for a miracle before that.
Yuck! This is some sorrid crab. I won't be eating more plankton. It's like swallowing air. Bye!